"Elena, we're letting you go. Effective immediately." The words hit me like ice water. I was sitting in our weekly team meeting when my boss, Harrison Blake, made the announcement. Not in his office. Not privately. In front of 12 colleagues who suddenly couldn't meet my eyes. What? My voice came out smaller than I intended. "Your performance hasn't met standards. We're restructuring your position." He didn't look at me. Just shuffled papers like I'd already disappeared. Around the conference table, mouths hung open. My colleague Natalie gasped audibly. I'd been with the company for 6 years. 6 years of excellent reviews, promotions, client wins. "This is 2 days before the audit," I managed to say. "Which is exactly why we need to make changes now." Harrison's smile was cold. Professional. Practiced. My phone buzzed in my pocket as he continued explaining my transition. I pulled it out with shaking hands. Unknown number. Text message. "Ms. Torres, this is the audit team. We need to schedule your testimony. Can you call us immediately?" I looked up at Harrison. His eyes had found my phone. The color drained from his face. He knew. And suddenly so did I. This wasn't about performance. This was about silencing me before I could talk. 3 months earlier, everything had seemed normal. I was going through quarterly reports when I noticed something odd. A client payment listed twice. Same amount, same date, different account codes. Probably just a clerical error. I flagged it for Harrison in our morning meeting. "Oh, that." He waved his hand dismissively. "Accounting is recategorizing some revenue streams. Nothing to worry about. Should I follow up to make sure it's corrected?" "I'll handle it." His tone was final. "You've got enough on your plate with the Meridian account." I nodded and moved on. But the next week I found another duplicate. Then another pattern. Invoices that didn't match purchase orders. Small discrepancies that added up to something bigger. Each time I mentioned them, Harrison deflected. Old system migration issues. Timing differences. Already being addressed. His answers came too quickly. Too smoothly. I started keeping a list. Not because I suspected anything serious. Just because I'm thorough. It's what made me good at my job. By the end of the month, my list had 17 items. That's when the email arrived from corporate. Subject line. Annual compliance audit scheduled. The audit would begin in 3 months. Standard procedure, they said. Harrison called an emergency department meeting that afternoon. His jaw was tight. His usual confidence had cracks in it. "We need to make sure everything is clean before they arrive," he said. Clean. An interesting word choice. I found the ledger entry by accident. I was looking for backup documentation on the duplicate payments, just trying to be helpful, to clear up the confusion before the audit. That's when I saw it in our shared financial drive. Account number 8472. Consulting services. $47,000. Except we didn't have a consulting contract for that amount. I would have known. I managed vendor relationships. I checked the payment date. 3 months ago. The invoice attached was from a company I'd never heard of. Strategic Solutions Group, LLC. I searched our vendor database. Nothing. I checked our contracts folder. Nothing. I Googled the company name. No website. No business registration I could find. My stomach tightened. This wasn't a clerical error. This was something else entirely. I was about to email Harrison when a message popped up from HR Director Patricia Holmes. "Elena, regarding the discrepancies you've been flagging, please handle these matters discreetly. Avoid creating unnecessary alarm before the audit. Let's discuss privately." Discreetly. Unnecessary alarm. The corporate language of people who already knew something was wrong. I closed my laptop and sat in silence. Every instinct told me to walk away, to let someone else deal with this. But I'd already seen too much. And they knew it. My phone buzzed. Another text from Patricia. "Can you come to my office now?" Harrison was already in Patricia's office when I arrived. "Elena, come in." Patricia gestured to a chair. Her smile was tight. Professional. We wanted to discuss some of the concerns you've raised. I sat slowly. Harrison leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching me. The duplicate payments and the consulting invoice, I began. I found. Yes, we're aware. Harrison cut me off smoothly. And we appreciate your diligence. But these are complex accounting matters that don't require your direct involvement. I manage vendor relationships. If we're paying consultants I don't know about. The arrangements were made at a higher level. His voice had an edge now. Sometimes projects are confidential. Need-to-know basis. Patricia nodded. The audit is coming up, as you know. We need to make sure everyone is focused on their specific responsibilities. Not getting distracted by issues outside their scope. Translation: stop looking. I understand, I said carefully. But if auditors ask me about vendor payments, I need to be able to explain them. Harrison's expression hardened. The audit is a routine compliance check. Nothing to be concerned about. He emphasized the word nothing just slightly. A warning. Of course. Understood. Is there anything else? Just remember, Harrison said as I reached the door. The audit is next month. We all need to be on the same page. I started making copies that night. Not because I planned to do anything dramatic. Just because something felt wrong and I wanted insurance. Protection. I forwarded key emails to my personal account. Downloaded spreadsheets showing the duplicate payments. Saved the mysterious consulting invoice as a PDF. Each file I copied felt like a small victory. A tiny reclaiming of control in a situation that was spinning beyond me. I created a folder on my personal cloud drive. Backup, Q3 documentation. Inside, I organized everything chronologically. The first duplicate payment. The second. Third. The consulting invoice. The emails showing how I'd flagged each issue and how Harrison had dismissed them. Took 3 hours to compile everything properly. By the time I finished, it was past midnight. I sat back and looked at my work. Neat. Thorough. Documented. If something went wrong, I had proof that I'd done my job correctly. The next morning, Harrison stopped by my desk. He stood there silently for a moment, just watching me work. Everything okay? Yes. Fine. But his eyes scanned my computer screen. Just checking in. Making sure you're not overwhelmed. I'm managing. Good. He turned to leave, then paused. Elena, I hope you know we value your contributions here. But sometimes the best thing is to focus on what's in front of you. Not get distracted by rabbit holes. After he left, I noticed he'd positioned himself so he could see my screen. Checking what I was working on. He was watching me now. The attack came during our monthly department presentation. I was presenting our client retention metrics. Strong numbers, our best quarter in 2 years. Halfway through my slides, Harrison interrupted. Can we talk about the Cordova account? I blinked. That wasn't on today's agenda, but you lost them last month. Want to explain why? The room went silent. I hadn't lost Cordova. They'd been acquired by a larger firm that had existing vendor relationships. It wasn't a failure. It was a standard business transition. Cordova was acquired. It wasn't a loss due to performance. But they're no longer our client. That's a loss. Harrison leaned forward. And according to this, he pulled out a printed email. You didn't even try to negotiate with the acquiring company. Because their RFP process required. Excuses don't help us hit targets, Elena. My face burned. Around the table, colleagues shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't normal. Harrison never called people out like this in public meetings. He was discrediting me. Deliberately. After the meeting, Natalie caught me in the hallway. What was that about? I have no idea. Yes, you do. She glanced around, then lowered her voice. You're in his crosshairs. Whatever you did, fix it. Fast. Not everyone turned against me. 2 days after the public humiliation, Marcus from accounting stopped by my desk. He pretended to ask about a client invoice, but his real message was whispered. Conference room B, lunch. Just you and me. I found him there at noon, door closed, eating a sandwich. I've noticed things too, he said without preamble. The duplicate payments. The weird vendor invoices. I flagged them to Harrison 3 months ago. What did he say? Same thing he told you. That it was being handled. Marcus pulled out his phone, showed me a spreadsheet. But look at this. Kept tracking them. There are at least 23 suspicious transactions in the past 6 months. 23. I'd only found 17. Who else knows? Probably no one. People don't cross-reference like we do. He closed the file. But Elena, the audit team will find this. They're not stupid. Harrison knows that. Which means he's going to need a scapegoat. Marcus met my eyes. Someone to blame when the numbers don't add up. My blood went cold. Me. You've been asking questions. You've been flagging discrepancies. On paper you look involved. But I wasn't. I was trying to fix the problems. I know. But Harrison's setting it up so it looks like you were responsible for the irregularities. He paused. Watch your back. And document everything. As Marcus left, I felt the walls closing in. Harrison wasn't just protecting himself. He was actively building a case against me. The ultimatum came Friday afternoon. Harrison called me into his office and closed the door. No Patricia this time. Just the two of us. Elena, I need your help with something. His tone was friendly. Too friendly. The audit team is going to look closely at vendor payments. I need you to adjust some of the coding in our system. Adjust how? Some transactions were coded to the wrong accounts. Simple fixes. Just moving them to where they should have been in the first place. He slid a printout across his desk. A list of 15 transactions. Including the $47,000 consulting payment. You want me to recategorize these? Just to clean things up before the auditors arrive. Makes everyone's job easier. I looked at the list. Every single one was a transaction I'd questioned. And he wanted me to change them, to alter the records. Harrison, if these were miscoded, we need to document why. Create an audit trail showing the corrections and the authorization. His smile faded. It's not that complicated. Just make the changes. But if I change financial records without proper documentation, are you saying you won't do this? The threat hung in the air. I'm saying we should do it correctly. Through proper channels. Harrison stood. Elena, I've tried to be patient. But if you can't be a team player on this, I'll need to consider whether you're the right fit for this department. I met his gaze. I understand. Do you? His voice dropped. Because refusing a direct assignment could be grounds for termination. I left his office with my hands shaking. He just threatened my job if I didn't falsify records. And we both knew the audit was in 2 days. I was cut out overnight. Monday morning, I discovered I'd been removed from the departmental email distribution list. No explanation. Just suddenly excluded from every thread. Meeting invitations I used to receive automatically. Access to the shared financial drive where I'd found the suspicious consulting invoice. Revoked. My calendar had been wiped of all audit-related meetings. Called IT. There must be an error. I need access to the Q3 financial reports. Sorry, Elena. Your permissions were updated per Harrison Blake's request. Can you restore them? You'll need to take that up with Harrison. I hung up and stared at my computer. I'd been systematically erased from everything related to the audit. Natalie walked past my desk, saw my expression. What's wrong? I've been locked out of all the audit files. She winced. Elena, Harrison told everyone you were being reassigned to focus on client relations. That the audit prep was being handled by senior management. Did he say why? He said there were concerns about data integrity, and that he needed to ensure proper oversight. Data integrity. He was planting the narrative that I was the problem. My phone buzzed. Text from Marcus. They're rewriting history. Check the September vendor report. I pulled up the September report from my personal backup files. Then I requested the current version from a colleague who still had access. The documents were completely different. Someone had changed nearly 40 transactions. And my name was listed as the preparer on the original version, the one with all the discrepancies. Harrison had set the perfect trap. The auditors arrived Tuesday morning. I watched from my desk as 3 professionals in dark suits were escorted to the conference room. Harrison greeted them with handshakes and his most charming smile. I wasn't invited to the kickoff meeting. Around 10 a.m., I saw Harrison walking the lead auditor through our department. He stopped at different desks, introducing people, explaining processes. He walked right past my desk without acknowledging me. But the auditor, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s, glanced at my nameplate. "And you are Elena Torres. I manage vendor relationships and—" "Elena has recently been reassigned," Harrison interrupted smoothly. "She's transitioning to a client-facing role, not involved in the financial processes under review." The auditor made a note. "I see." After they left, I pulled out my phone. The text from this morning sat in my messages. "Miss Torres, this is the audit team. We need to schedule your testimony." They'd specifically asked for me. Harrison knew it. That's why he was trying to minimize my role, to make me seem uninvolved and unreliable. I texted back, "Available anytime. Happy to assist." The response came within minutes. "Can you meet us tomorrow at 2 p.m? Conference room C. Please don't mention this meeting to anyone." My heart pounded. The auditors wanted to talk to me privately, away from Harrison. They suspected something. Harrison moved fast. That afternoon, I received an email. "Effective immediately, your vendor management responsibilities are being transferred to Kyle Anderson. Please provide him with all relevant files and client contact information by end of day." Kyle appeared at my desk an hour later, looking uncomfortable. "Hey, Elena. I guess I'm taking over your accounts." "Apparently." I forced a smile. "I'll send you everything." As I gathered files to transfer, I made sure to keep copies of everything in my personal backup. Every contract, every email chain, every client note. Harrison wanted to erase me from the department's operations, make it look like I'd never been competent or trustworthy. But I'd anticipated this. Every file I transferred to Kyle, I also saved to my encrypted cloud storage. At 5 p.m., Harrison stopped by. "All transferred." "Yes." "Good." He paused. "Elena, I want you to know this isn't personal. Sometimes organizational changes are necessary." 2 days before the audit. "The timing is unfortunate, but—" "It's interesting timing," I interrupted. "Removing the person who flagged all the discrepancies, right before auditors arrive." His expression hardened. "Are you implying something?" "Just observing." "Well, observe carefully. Because your future here depends on being a team player." After he left, I sat in the darkening office. My computer screen glowed with the transfer confirmation. But I wasn't defenseless. I had copies of everything. Documentation of every warning I'd given. Every discrepancy I'd found. Tomorrow at 2 p.m., I'd give it all to the auditors. Harrison had made his move. Now it was my turn. That night I barely slept. My mind spun through scenarios. What if the auditors didn't believe me? What if Harrison had built a case so convincing that my evidence looked like the work of someone trying to cover their own mistakes? What if I lost everything, my job, my reputation, my career? I got up at 3 a.m. and made tea. Sat at my kitchen table reviewing my documentation for the 100th time. Everything was organized chronologically, clear, professional, indisputable. But doubt crept in. Harrison was senior management, respected, connected. I was just a mid-level employee who'd been reassigned right before the audit. My phone lit up with a text. "Marcus. Can't sleep either? How did you know?" "Because I've been where you are. 3 years ago, different boss, same playbook." "What happened?" I kept my head down. Didn't fight it. Lost my job anyway. Don't make my mistake. Fight back. At 6 a.m., another text arrived. Unknown number. Elena, this is Natalie. Using a different phone. I have something for you. Can you meet me before work? Coffee place across the street. 7 a.m. I arrived early. Natalie was already there, looking nervous. She slid a flash drive across the table. These are files Harrison deleted from the shared drive last week. I had them cached on my local machine. Why are you giving me this? Because what he's doing to you is wrong. And because those files prove he was manipulating the data. I pocketed the flash drive. Thank you. Be careful. He's dangerous when cornered. I spent the morning pretending to work on my reassigned projects while actually reviewing Natalie's files. She was right. They were damning. Original vendor invoices showing one set of amounts. Revised versions showing different amounts. Email chains where Harrison instructed accounting to adjust entries. And a spreadsheet titled Pre-Audit Cleanup that detailed exactly which transactions needed to be corrected before the auditors arrived. Every change was designed to hide money flowing to suspicious vendors, including Strategic Solutions Group LLC, the $47,000 consulting payment. I cross-referenced it with my own documentation. The pattern was clear. Harrison had been systematically funneling company funds to fake vendors for at least 8 months. And when I started noticing, he began setting me up to take the fall. Around 11 a.m. I saw something else in the files. Harrison's calendar, cached from 2 weeks ago. Multiple meetings with Patricia from HR. Notes in the appointment details. Elena transition plan and documentation for cause. They'd been planning to fire me for weeks. But they needed the right moment. The right justification. The audit gave them both. My phone buzzed. Text from the lead auditor. Confirming our 2 p.m. meeting. Conference room C. 3 hours. In 3 hours, Harrison's carefully constructed plan would start crumbling. I saved everything to a backup drive. Organized it into a clear presentation folder. I was ready. The morning dragged. Every minute felt like an hour. I watched the clock, watched Harrison's office, watched the auditors moving through their inspection. At 1:30 p.m., Harrison called an impromptu team meeting. Just want to thank everyone for their cooperation with the audit team, he said. Everything is going smoothly. A few minor things to clean up, but nothing significant. His eyes found mine across the room. Some people have raised concerns about our processes. I want to assure you that every question has been addressed properly through management channels. Translation: keep your mouth shut. The auditors are professional investigators, he continued. They understand that sometimes employees who don't see the full picture might misinterpret normal business operations. He was discrediting me before I even spoke. The meeting ended at 1:55 p.m. I gathered my laptop and the backup drive. My hands were steady now. The doubt had burned away. As I walked toward conference room C, Harrison appeared in the hallway. Where are you going? Meeting. With whom? I met his eyes. The audit team. They asked to speak with me. His face went pale. Elena, I don't think that's appropriate without management present. They specifically requested a private conversation. About what? I assume they'll tell me when I get there. I moved past him. He grabbed my arm. Don't do something you'll regret. Pulled away. I won't. Conference room C was at the far end of the building. Quiet. Private. The lead auditor, Catherine Wells, was waiting with her 2 colleagues. They stood when I entered. Ms. Torres. Thank you for meeting with us. Of course. Please sit. Catherine gestured to a chair. We've been reviewing the company's financial records. Some interesting patterns have emerged. I sat down carefully. What kind of patterns? Multiple vendors with irregular payment histories. Duplicate transactions. Invoices without proper supporting documentation. Pause. Your name appears frequently in the email chains discussing these discrepancies. Here it was. The moment Harrison had orchestrated. Yes, I said evenly. I flagged those issues starting 3 months ago. To whom? Harrison Blake, my direct supervisor. And what was his response? Pulled out my laptop. May I? Catherine nodded. I opened my carefully organized folder. This is a complete timeline of every discrepancy I identified when I reported it and Harrison's response. It's organized chronologically with supporting documentation. I turned the screen toward them. Catherine leaned forward, scanning the files. You documented everything. Yes. Why? Because the responses I received didn't make sense. And because I wanted to protect myself if questions arose later. Catherine exchanged glances with her colleagues. May we copy these files? I have them on this drive. I handed over the backup. Complete documentation, including files that were deleted from the company's shared drive last week. Deleted? Yes. Files showing the original transaction records before they were altered. The door burst open. Harrison stood there, red-faced, breathing hard. What's going on here? Catherine stood. Mr. Blake. We're conducting a private interview. With my employee. I should be present. Actually, Ms. Torres is not currently in a reporting relationship with you, according to the organizational changes filed yesterday. Catherine's voice was ice. She's been reassigned. I'm still her senior manager. And we're conducting an independent audit. We don't require management supervision for employee interviews. Harrison's jaw clenched. He looked at my laptop, at the flash drive in Catherine's hand. His eyes found mine. Pure fury. Elena, I need to speak with you. Now. Mr. Blake, Catherine interrupted. We're not finished here. This is highly irregular. What's irregular is the pattern of financial discrepancies we've uncovered. Discrepancies that Ms. Torres appears to have been trying to report through proper channels. Catherine sat back down. Now, if you'll excuse us. Harrison didn't move for a long moment. Then he turned and left, slamming the door. Catherine looked at me. He's been trying to prevent us from speaking with you. I know. Why do you think that is? Took a breath. Because I'm the only person who documented the problems before he could cover them up. And because he's been setting me up to take the blame. For what, specifically? Fraud. Embezzlement. I'm not sure exactly. But someone has been funneling company money to fake vendors. And Harrison was the one approving those payments. Catherine's expression didn't change, but I saw the tension in her shoulders. Show us everything. For the next 2 hours I walked them through everything. The duplicate payments. The mysterious consulting firms with no web presence. The $47,000 to Strategic Solutions Group. The pattern of Harrison dismissing my concerns while simultaneously removing my access to the evidence. I showed them the deleted files Natalie had given me. The pre-audit cleanup spreadsheet. Harrison's calendar showing meetings with HR to plan my removal. Catherine and her team took notes, asked detailed questions, cross-referenced my documentation with their own findings. Ms. Torres, Catherine finally said, were you aware that we specifically requested access to all employees who manage vendor relationships? No. We did. 3 weeks ago. Your name was at the top of the list. She pulled out a document. Harrison Blake provided us with an updated organizational chart showing you'd been reassigned. He said you were no longer involved in vendor management. That happened 2 days ago. Exactly. Catherine's expression was grim. He tried to keep us from talking to you. When we insisted, citing your name specifically from our preliminary research, he accelerated your reassignment. Because he knew what I'd tell you. Yes. She closed her folder. Ms. Torres, what we're about to tell you is confidential. The board of directors initiated this audit based on an anonymous tip received 6 weeks ago. Someone reported suspicious financial activity in your department. My heart raced. Who? We don't know. The tip was submitted through the company's anonymous ethics hotline. He paused. But based on what you've shown us today, we believe Harrison Blake thought you were the whistleblower. Everything clicked into place. Harrison hadn't just been covering up fraud. He'd been punishing who he thought had reported him. That night I couldn't go home. I sat in a coffee shop, laptop open, reviewing everything again. Evidence. Timeline. The trap Harrison had walked into. He'd been so focused on silencing me that he'd accelerated his own exposure. My phone rang. Unknown number. Hello. Elena, this is Patricia Holmes from HR. Her voice was tight. We need to meet first thing tomorrow morning. PM. My office. What's this about? We've received some concerning information. I need to speak with you about your future with the company. She hung up before I could respond. They were going to fire me. Harrison had convinced them to do it before the audit findings came out. I texted Catherine. HR calling me in tomorrow morning. I think they're terminating me. Her response came fast. Do not meet with them alone. The audit team will be presenting preliminary findings to the board tomorrow at 10 a.m. Request to postpone your meeting until after. Called Patricia back. Got voicemail. Patricia, this is Elena. I received your message. I'd like to request that we postpone our meeting until after 10 a.m. tomorrow. I believe there's information relevant to our discussion that will be available at that time. I hung up and sat back. Tomorrow morning, the board would hear the audit findings. And Harrison's world would implode. I spent the rest of the evening organizing my evidence into a presentation. Not because the auditors needed it, they had everything. But because I wanted to be ready to defend myself. To show the board exactly what had happened. Marcus texted. Heard Patricia scheduled you for tomorrow. What's happening? The end game. Need backup. Just be ready to testify if they ask. You flagged the same problems I did. I'm ready. I arrived at the office at 7 a.m. The building was nearly empty. I went straight to my desk and waited. At 7:45, Patricia emerged from her office. Saw me sitting there. Elena, you're early. I wanted to be prepared. She hesitated. About our meeting. I'd like to postpone until after the board meeting at 10 a.m. How did you know about the board meeting? The audit team mentioned it. Patricia's expression shifted. Uncertainty flickered across her face. The audit team spoke with you? Yes. Extensively. About what? About the financial discrepancies I've been reporting for 3 months. The ones Harrison told me to ignore. Patricia went pale. Elena, I think you should go home for the day. We'll reschedule our meeting for later this week. I'd prefer to be available if the board has questions. That won't be necessary. Patricia. My voice was steady. I have documentation of every conversation we've had about Harrison's request for me to handle things discreetly. The audit team has copies. She stared at me. You've been working with the auditors. They asked to speak with me. I told them the truth. At 9:45 a.m., Catherine Wells and her team arrived. They went directly to the executive floor where the boardroom was located. At 9:50, Harrison arrived. Saw them. His face went rigid. He pulled out his phone, made a frantic call. I couldn't hear what he said, but his body language screamed panic. At 10 a.m., the board meeting began. I sat at my desk, pretending to work, watching the elevator bank. Waiting. At 10:47 a.m., the boardroom door opened. Harrison emerged first, flanked by 2 board members. His face was ashen. They walked past my desk without speaking. Disappeared into a private office. Catherine appeared at the elevator. Saw me. Gave a subtle nod. It was working. At 11:15, Patricia came to my desk. Elena. The board would like to speak with you. My heart hammered. Now. Yes. Please bring any documentation you have related to the vendor management discrepancies. I gathered my laptop and files. Followed her to the boardroom. Inside, 8 board members sat around an enormous table. Catherine and her team were positioned at one end. An empty chair waited for me. The board chair, Alexander Foster, gestured for me to sit. Ms. Torres, thank you for joining us. His voice was grave. The audit team has presented some very concerning findings. We understand you played a key role in identifying these issues. I flagged discrepancies starting 3 months ago. To Harrison Blake. Yes, sir. And what was his response? Open my laptop. May I show you? For the next 40 minutes, I walked the board through everything. The original findings. Harrison's dismissals. The deleted files. The pattern of retaliation. They asked sharp questions. I answered each one with documentation. Finally, Alexander sat back. Ms. Torres, were you aware that Harrison Blake recommended your termination to HR 3 weeks ago? I suspected it. He claimed your work performance had deteriorated significantly, that you'd made serious errors in vendor management. Alexander pulled out a document. He submitted a detailed performance review recommending immediate dismissal. That review was fabricated, I said quietly. My actual performance reviews are all excellent. This was retaliation for reporting the fraud. We understand that now. Alexander looked at Catherine. Your preliminary findings. Based on our investigation, Harrison Blake appears to have created at least 7 fraudulent vendor accounts over the past 18 months. He approved payments totaling approximately $340,000 to these fake entities. When Ms. Torres began identifying the discrepancies, he attempted to discredit and terminate her before she could report to authorities. The room was silent. Ms. Torres, Alexander said, the board owes you an apology. Harrison was placed on administrative leave that afternoon. The announcement went out at 3 p.m. Effective immediately, Harrison Blake has been placed on leave pending the outcome of an internal investigation. All questions should be directed to HR. I watched from my desk as he was escorted from the building by security. He didn't look my way. Patricia came to see me an hour later. Elena, on behalf of the company, I want to apologize. We should have taken your concerns more seriously from the beginning. Yes, you should have. She flinched. We're prepared to offer you a settlement package. I don't want a settlement. I want my job. And I want an acknowledgement that I did nothing wrong. Of course, your position in vendor management will be immediately restored, with a promotion to senior manager and appropriate compensation adjustment. And the false performance review Harrison submitted? Expunged from your file. We'll also be issuing a formal letter clearing your name and acknowledging your role in uncovering the fraud. I leaned back in my chair. What happens to Harrison? That's still under investigation. But based on the audit findings, we're involving law enforcement. This goes beyond internal misconduct. After she left, my phone buzzed. Text from Marcus. What the hell just happened? Harrison's gone and everyone's saying you're a hero. Smiled. Just told the truth. That evening Natalie stopped by my desk. I heard. You did it. We did it. Your files made the difference. Still. That took guts. I paused. Harrison called me this afternoon. Wanted me to say you'd been manipulating records. What did you tell him? That I was done lying for him. He grinned. Then I hung up. The board meeting lasted 3 hours. I wasn't present for all of it, but Catherine filled me in afterward. They'd brought in Harrison to respond to the findings. He tried to explain, justify, to shift blame. But the evidence was overwhelming. Email records showing him creating the fake vendor accounts. Bank records showing the payments. Documentation proving he'd personally approved every fraudulent transaction. And when they confronted him about trying to frame me, he'd claimed I was unstable and making things up. That's when they showed him my documentation. The deleted files. The timeline proving I'd reported everything properly and he'd dismissed it. According to Catherine, he'd gone silent then. He realized you'd outplayed him, she said. I just documented the truth. You did more than that. You built an airtight case while he was trying to destroy you. That takes serious fortitude. The next morning, the CEO requested a meeting with me. Ms. Torres, I wanted to personally thank you. What you did, continuing to report these issues despite facing retaliation, that's the kind of integrity we need more of. I was just doing my job. You were doing more than that. You were protecting the company, even when the company wasn't protecting you. He paused. We'd like to offer you a position on our new Compliance Oversight Committee. It's a cross-functional role reporting directly to the board. And blinked. That's significant. You've proven you have the judgment and courage for it. We need people who won't look away when they see problems. I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. I accept. Harrison's termination was announced the following week. The press release was carefully worded. Following an internal investigation, Harrison Blake's employment has been terminated for cause. The company is cooperating with law enforcement regarding potential financial misconduct. Within days, the full story leaked. News articles appeared. Mid-level manager uncovers $340,000 fraud at tech firm. Whistleblower vindicated after boss attempts frame up. My phone rang constantly. Job recruiters, reporters, professional organizations asking me to speak about corporate ethics. I declined most of it. But I did accept an invitation to speak at a compliance conference. What made you keep fighting? Someone asked during the Q&A. Thought about it. Because I knew I was right. And because staying silent would have made me complicit in the fraud. Sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is nothing. The applause was overwhelming. Marcus found me afterward. You've become a thing. A corporate integrity icon. I just documented problems. You did way more than that. You beat a system designed to protect people like Harrison. That's huge. 2 weeks later, I received a handwritten note. Return address. Harrison's attorney. Inside. You destroyed my career. I hope you're satisfied. I read it once, then threw it away. He'd destroyed his own career the moment he chose fraud over integrity. I just made sure the truth came out. My new role started the following month. I had an office on the executive floor now. Team reporting to me. Direct access to the board for any compliance concerns. On my first day, the CEO introduced me at the all-hands meeting. Elena Torres has been promoted to Director of Compliance Oversight. Some of you know her story. For those who don't, she exemplifies what we mean when we talk about corporate courage. She saw problems, reported them properly, and refused to back down when faced with retaliation. That's the culture we're building here. The applause made my eyes sting. After the meeting, Patricia approached me. I wanted to apologize again. Personally, I should have protected you when Harrison first started retaliating. You were following his lead. That's not an excuse. I was scared of crossing him. And you paid the price for my cowardice. She met my eyes. I'm leaving the company. This whole situation made me realize I'm not cut out for HR. I felt a flicker of sympathy. What will you do? I'm not sure yet. But I need to be somewhere I can sleep at night. She handed me an envelope. This is for you. Documentation of every conversation Harrison and I had about removing you. For your records. After she left, I sat in my new office. Through the window, I could see the city spread out below. 6 months ago, I'd been flagging minor discrepancies in vendor payments. Now I was responsible for ensuring those kinds of problems never happened again. My phone buzzed. Anonymous text. You played it perfectly. From someone who's been there before. I didn't recognize the number, but the message made me smile. Somewhere out there, someone else had fought the same fight. And won. 3 months later, I testified at Harrison's fraud trial. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, company representatives, curious observers. Harrison sat at the defense table, smaller somehow than I remembered. Defeated. When my turn came, I walked to the stand calmly, placed my hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth. The prosecutor asked me to explain what I'd discovered. I told the story clearly, methodically, the duplicate payments, the fake vendors, the $340,000 in fraudulent transactions. Harrison's attorney tried to shake my testimony, suggested I'd misunderstood normal business practices, that I'd overreacted to routine accounting procedures. I pulled out my documentation. These aren't routine procedures. These are deliberate attempts to hide the movement of company funds to entities that don't exist. The jury listened intently. When I finished, I could see it in their faces. They believed me. Harrison was convicted on 14 counts of fraud and embezzlement, sentenced to 6 years in federal prison. I didn't attend the sentencing. I moved on. Now, a year after that first team meeting where Harrison fired me, I stood in front of a room full of business students. Corporate fraud doesn't happen in a vacuum, I told them. It happens when good people see problems and stay silent. When they prioritize their comfort over doing what's right. A student raised her hand. But you lost almost everything. Your job, your reputation, your position. How did you know it would work out? I didn't. Smiled. But I knew that staying silent was worse than fighting. Because silence protects the wrong people. After the talk, a young woman approached me. I'm in a similar situation. I found irregularities at my company. But I'm scared. Document everything, I told her. Report through proper channels. And trust that the truth is worth fighting for. She nodded, eyes determined. I walked out of the building into bright sunshine. My phone buzzed with meeting reminders, compliance reviews, board updates. A year ago, I'd been sitting in a team meeting being publicly fired. Today, I was building systems to prevent it from happening to anyone else. Harrison had tried to sacrifice me to save himself. Instead, I'd turned his betrayal into my greatest professional achievement. The investigators had asked for my name first. And I'd given them everything they needed to bring him down.